Hi everyone, this is Ramdas again. I'm going to make another video today. This one's going to be on how beneficial it was and what I learned living as a monk. Um, I talked about in other videos. I had gone through some troubles in my life, and one of them was some legal troubles. And when I kind of ran into trouble, I ended up doing community service at a Hare Krishna ISKCON temple of New Jersey. And then eventually, they liked my service so much, I liked doing the service so much that I ended up moving in there and living as a monk on and off for about 6 months. And then, also taking these practices, living as a monk in India, living as of right now, I'm married and my wife and I, we do it together, but we also kind of live as monks and set almost like a temple atmosphere here at the center that we're running, or co-running in Syracuse, New York. So, yeah, we'll begin today with just some of the things that I learned. And the first one was cleanliness. I actually, you could say maybe we all have. There's a saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. Um, and in order to have like a really nice spiritual atmosphere, it needs to be clean. So at the temple, they were really adamant with, at least especially in the places where you worship, that these places should be clean. After when one is eating, there should be cleanliness habits. Of course, washing the hands before eating, especially at the um, in Indian Vedic tradition, they often eat with the hands. Well, the right hand in specific, the left hand, you clean other places of your body with. That's another whole interesting cleanliness habit I can get into. But yeah, especially when eating, you should have clean hands when eating. Make sure the space you're eating in is very clean. Um, obviously your plates and utensils, everything should be clean. Um, and then afterwards, when you're done, you clean up just like so. It's good to go. So cleanliness was a really big um, benefit that I learned there, and I still, I use these practices today. And actually, we try and set the example in our center now, in the same ways that I were taught. 'Cause you really see the benefit if you just clean up your space. I mean, that's what the whole feng shui thing is about. Setting up like a clean and energetically appealing and pleasing spiritual environment. So they kind of taught me some of these things. Another one is cleaning myself. Obviously I knew how to shower. I didn't realize, taking at least 2 showers a day was recommended, but this one's a little uh, gross, but actually it's like really practical knowledge because this was like mind blowing to me. But to shower after you use the number two facility that your body has, so I'll leave it at that. But to and if you can't shower after, which is maybe not always possible if you're at the job or something, but to clean with water, they have at the temples. And if you don't, and you might say, well, I can't afford a bidet. Uh, Neither can a lot of people. So they use what's called like a lota, which is like a cup. Uh, Pretty much, there's like special lota, what it looks like, but you could at least use like a large cup designated just to doing this, and you fill it up with water before you go to the bathroom. And after you're done, you would take your right hand and pour the lota down your back, and your left hand you would clean whatever needs to be cleaned. But I'll tell you, that was a revolutionary thing for me. I preferred to bathe, make sure I'm bathed. Everything is I'm in the shower afterwards with everything. That's still a practice I use today, and I'm grateful for learning that. But once you clean with water, you'll actually never go back, because yeah, I mean, if a bird was to, you know, drop its droppings on you and say like your arm, And you wouldn't just like take like a piece of toilet paper and just like wipe it off, you get water, hopefully, and you'd clean it off. So similarly with our backsides, when we release everything that needs to be released, instead of just smearing it in or taking just paper, it's good to do water or to bathe. So that was a revolutionary habit for me. And if I could help anyone with just that, I think that's a win for a lot of people. Just to the level of comfort and cleanliness, that just that habit alone. So there was many cleanliness habits, especially in regards to eating, and going to the bathroom, bathing. I learned, keeping my place neat, my room neat, in my space neat. Um, I try to do that still to this day. Having a wife who is more adamant about that than I am is helpful in my life, I will admit. And oftentimes she does it for me in many ways. So, but just the having that space clean, it's almost a necessity. If you want to, if your space is clean, your mind can be clear, free from anxiety. There's like an energetic science to this kind of feng shui. So, the temple, even though it wasn't always in the cleanest state, because so many people were using, and not everyone followed every practice, right? But yeah, that was a really wonderful habit to come across. Some other habits were regulation, having doing the same thing every day. We wake up 4:30 in the morning, it's prayer, worship. After the worship, we sit to meditate for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then there's another form of worship, and then maybe continue meditation, and then you have breakfast at the same time every day. You do your daily duties at the same time to do every day, and lunch, so on, all your daily activities, like kind of, I mean, obviously there's room for spontaneity, something comes up or things like that, but to have like a regulated practice, that still has been a huge help in my life. Every day I try and get up early. This is a practice at the temple, the getting up early in the morning, like before 5 a.m., like 4:30 a.m., getting up and starting my day with spiritual practice, with because obviously this temple is not, it's dedicated to spiritual practice. And my life actually has become dedicated to spiritual practice and showing others how to dedicate their lives to spiritual practice. So naturally, that was one of the things I learned, and one of the many benefits I learned is to arrange your life in a way in which you can do what's called sadhana, or a means of completing your spiritual goals or attaining your spiritual goals. So that might be waking up early, doing worship in the morning, taking time to meditate and commune with God in the way that how, prayer, meditation, reading holy scriptures. I'm talking very universally in our tradition. I have the exact books, the exact forms of meditation I could tell you, but understand that most people will not even understand half of the practices and scriptures I'd be referring to. So universally, to have your wisdom scriptures, something you draw inspiration from. It might be the Bible, who knows, it could be a whole host of many things. But we have the Vedic Shastras, like the Bhagavad Gita, the foremost being the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana. And then there's others, Chaitanya Charitamrita and other such scriptures that we draw a ton of inspiration from, and guidance, so that when we do go about our day, we have this spiritual mindset, and the activities we do can be made spiritual through the practice of yoga. Yoga means to link or to connect our activities, which is karma, to connect our karma with God. So this is called karma yoga. It's like one of the first teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So this is kind of been a really wonderful thing I learned living as a monk. How important it was to set the spiritual atmosphere wherever you go. Naturally, I didn't stay and live permanently as a monk at this temple. It's not like I never left. I did have to leave other places, work, and try to establish a career, all these things, and tried many different things, especially along with my wife these past few years. But the importance of a spiritual atmosphere, setting your place to do spiritual practice, no matter where you're staying. It's very much tough when you go into other people's environments because, for instance, we would often go to our parents' homes, and our parents were not trained in these ways, nor did they prioritize, and maybe did they still prioritize the importance of any of what I just mentioned. So you kind of have to carve out your little spot where you can do your spiritual activities when you go other places. But you see that when you have these practices and then you go into other places that maybe you once were very comfortable, like say my parents, it's very difficult to exist in clutter, in a non-spiritual atmosphere, maybe without peace and quiet. Maybe, at the temple, there's no TVs, there's no radios. I mean, they're not bumping the latest pop jam or rap lyric or rock and roll. Everything is spiritualized. So all your senses are actually engaged spiritually. What you see, especially they do like a physical worship on the altar. Everything is depicting an image of the Lord, and training your eyes to see and search for, the image of God. What you hear is spiritual music, spiritual lectures, spiritual, you can do your own personal meditation. You can say prayers that your ears hear. It's a way of engaging one's senses. This Bhakti Yoga system we follow is engaging all of one's senses spiritually rather than materially. In the Christian theology, it's Jesus says you can serve one of two masters. You can serve God, or you could serve mammon, which is like wealth, prestige, power, the realm of Satan. You could either serve, and everything we do is either doing one of those two things. It's serving the worldly, egoic things, where the illusion is that you are this body. Everything is about building this personality that you are, but that's actually not reality. The reality is you're a spiritual soul. You've been here, you've been doing something before, you'll be doing something after this, but this identity you've created for yourself in this body, in this family, in this country, that's not you, and actually has very little to do with you. It's like, it's the car, it's the vehicle you're driving, but ultimately you're the passenger in the vehicle, and you're going to get out. And the real soul is the person inside rather than the shell on the outside. So I know a little detour of where we're going, but this is very important to have the spiritual atmosphere, or to create it in your life. What a blessing to learn many of these things living as a monk. I would recommend anyone, if you somehow had the time or the freedom to learn to live as a monk, I would recommend anyone to do it. Actually, what we're doing up here in Syracuse, we're opening the house we want residents to come and live a monk-like lifestyle. And even if you're working and doing other things, you could kind of apply some of these techniques we're teaching, sit in on some of our daily programs on how we cultivate our spiritual atmosphere. And you could apply this to your own life too. But we want to universally teach this to everyone. So if you're interested in anything I said in the video, please reach out. I'd love to be as helpful as possible. And I guess like the last one, and I'll kind of conclude what I was thinking for this video, is I learned humility, and kind of to surrender onto a process, and to not think that I had all the answers. There have been many humbling experiences in my life, especially before I was a monk. I had a few humbling experiences, especially getting arrested. It was a really humbling experience, where my ego was kind of stripped of any type of position or importance I gave myself, and I was kind of disgraced actually a little bit. So, and it was actually healthy for my development and growth. But, when you live as a monk, just like when you start any job, oftentimes you're on the bottom rung. You're the new guy, or so you gotta, be humble. Even actually, like Jesus says, be like, in order to approach God, you have to be unto like a child. Um, and this is part of being a child, is humility. You know that you're not the biggest or top dog. You see all the older people, they're running things. You have to be humble, and well, that's the hope anyway. So, living as a monk really taught me a lot of lessons in humility, surrendering to the process, ultimately surrendering unto teachers, and specific my spiritual teacher. I met him while living as a monk. So what a blessing that was. His Grace Shami Kurishi Maharaj, so he kind of took me under his shelter when I was living at the temple, and I was able to serve him and go with him, and I learned a lot of personal lessons with him. But there were many people there to help me, spiritual practitioners there to help me along the way. I was learning something every day. And of course I was reading the scriptures that were also and commentaries on the scriptures. One great teacher I'd recommend anyone, the books of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, at least here in the West, about 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. 55, I think, is when it kind of started. Yes, just reading these books, learning from his disciples, like my guru is one of his disciples, and hearing these teachings, and then trying it out, testing it out, seeing that, you don't have all the answers. I'll speak boldly to you, you don't. And I didn't either, and I don't now, but I will admit I'm so much happier with where I've been able to come to through peace of mind. The things I was suffering and struggling with, I've been able to let go of so much of that. And now I'm working on my service to the world, and what I really love to do, what I really think is important. Having complete faith in the process and not settling for things that I know ultimately aren't important and for me. And that's been, the surrender process is a daily thing. It's not, you just surrender once. It's like every day you have to make the commitment to surrender in order to make serious advancement. So, yeah, these are just some of the things, some of my thoughts I could immediately share. If you have any questions or you want to know more, I'd be happy to share. One book I could recommend anybody is, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, by the author A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I'd happily share, so please message me or something like that. And if that one's a little too challenging, and that is too, the same author, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, there's a book called Science of Self-Realization, and that's a really good introductory book as well. So these really can help get you kick-started on, and it's not like you have to join a temple, become a monk or anything, but you could check out a new perspective that will be really helpful, and has helped, I know hundreds of people personally, but it's helped thousands and millions of people, find a lot of peace of mind, and find purpose in life, and have some answers. There any burning question that I had from my years of philosophical search, I have been able to be reconciled and answered in this ancient Vedic system. So if you have questions, burning questions about life, or things that you're suffering with and you haven't figured out how to overcome them, all these problems can actually be overcome. And it's through the grace of God. And ultimately, we find we're trying to follow humbly God's instructions. So if you would like to know more, I'd be happy to share. But until next time, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you all. And yeah, I'll make another video sometime in the future. Bye now.